Let's stop calling these people investors or hedge fund managers and instead call them drought profiteers, which is what they are. I mean, you can also call them vultures or parasites or shit stains. Those all apply quite well. Get creative with it. Listen to your heart. Welcome to the most censored news. I'm Lee Camp. So water. Not sure if you know this, but we all need it to survive. In fact, did you know it's the prime ingredient in alcohol? Like the main ingredient. And just think of how many more people would be killed each year if we didn't have alcohol to take the edge off. So yeah, we need water. But here's the problem. As the climate crisis causes drought around the world, the richest of the rich are snatching up all of the fresh water. They call it the Great Water Grab. Wall Street is buying up the world's water. Corporations are consolidating water and land rights in the West. In one example, New York investors have been snapping up Colorado River water rights, betting big on the increasingly scarce resource. One of the worst is a New York hedge fund called Water Asset Management. See, that doesn't sound so bad, right? Water Asset Management sounds kind of nice. It's kind of like a draconian prison state named Freedom Asset Management. Anyway, Water Asset Management has bought at least $20 million worth of land in western Colorado in the last 5 years, making it one of the largest landowners in the Grand Valley. The hedge fund says it invests exclusively in assets and companies that ensure water supply and quality. Right. They ensure water supply and quality. Oh, for who? For who do you ensure that? Is it for the Iraq vet with no legs begging for change in the subway? Is it for the single mom working 2 jobs? Is that who you are giving your water to? No, it's the highest bidder. That's who. It's like saying Octapharma, one of the largest paid blood extraction companies, ensures blood supply and quality as they suck it out of the poorest Americans. The co-founder and president of Water Asset Management, Matthew Desario, called water in the United States a $1 trillion market opportunity. He's saying stealing water from Americans and selling it back to the ones who can afford to buy it is good for his bank account. Sounds like a fun guy to be around, doesn't he? But we need this to survive. I'd love to help you, but you see, I have a fiduciary obligation to myself to enrich me with lots of money for me to have. So I wish I could help. And since we're already in a climate crisis, this is not a problem of the future. It's a problem of the now. In fact, reservoirs across the country are nearing empty. Lake Powell in Arizona and Lake Mead in Nevada, they are at historic lows. They're at just 25% of their full combined capacity. There are real fears that this crucial water supply for the West is on the brink of disaster. Let's stop calling these people investors or hedge fund managers and instead call them drought profiteers, which is what they are. I mean, you can also call them vultures or parasites or shit stains. Those all apply quite well. Get creative with it. Listen to your heart. Sure, a lot of it is greedy, rich Americans, but foreign corporations have also been getting in on the action. Foreign corporations are increasingly purchasing land in the U.S., in the Southwest, thanks to long-standing laws on water rights. These purchases often come with unlimited access to the valuable water underneath the soil. In another case, it was the Mormons, the Church of Latter-day Saints, and Bill Gates who were duking it out at the auction block, willing to spend more than $200 million to buy over 22,000 acres of land and its associated water rights. Why do you think they're willing to pay that insane price for ranch land? Is it because they like milking cows? Is it because they enjoy picturesque trees as the leaves change color? Or is it because they want to steal all the water underneath and add to their insane riches? And yes, the Mormon Church is psychotically rich, just like Bill Gates is. Of course, the corporate water heist is nothing new. It's just that Americans hadn't noticed that much until recently. Perhaps you remember 5 years ago when it was discovered that Nestle was only paying $200 a year to steal millions of gallons of fresh water from Michigan, bottle it, and sell it to people around the world for billions of dollars. In 2020, Nestle increased their theft levels to 576,000 gallons of groundwater per day. And although they were brought to court to try to stop that, corporate America owns our legal system. So Nestle's million-dollar lawyers won the challenge and kept sucking up all of that water. Man, did they suck. But then something interesting happened. Perhaps because of all their bad publicity, or perhaps because they knew there would be continued challenges in court to their bullshit water rights. Nestle then sold their water brands for $4.3 billion to two private equity firms. One, Rock Capital Partners, in partnership with Metropolis and Company, assumed ownership of brands including Poland Spring, Deer Park, Arrowhead, Ozarka, Zephyr Hills, and Pure Life. The private equity firms then created an umbrella company called Blue Triton that now owns those bottled waters. But don't be fooled. This doesn't change the fact that the people's limited supply of fresh water is being stolen by billionaires in corporate America. Used to be Nestle, now it's Blue Triton. Go fuck yourself. I don't care. I don't care what your name is. And Kanye West is now Yeezy or whatever the hell. Does an asshole by a different name still smell as foul? Yes. Goddamn straight it does. For another example of this theft, look at Arrowhead bottled water. There's a bitter fight over its sourcing in California. Used to be owned by Nestle, now it's Blue Triton. They're stealing millions of gallons a year to ship planet-destroying plastic bottles all over the world. And what do they pay Californians for those millions of gallons of water? Less than $2,000 a year. $2,000 is a rounding error for Blue Triton. And yes, let's not understate the plastic pollution from bottled water. Every year, Americans throw away 22 million plastic bottles. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. It's 22 billion. Freaking billion. It's 60 million a day. A day. And that's just the United States. Globally, it's 1 million every minute. Globally, it's 1 million every minute. Globally, it's 1 million every minute. Sorry, my brain just got stuck because what? And Blue Triton, formerly Nestle, plays a big role in that destruction. But luckily, they have a solution. They tell people their bottled water is sustainable because recycling. In fact, they were sued for those lies because most of the bottles it's not sustainable at all and most of them aren't recyclable. And in court, they said their claims of recycling and sustainability were, quote, puffery. Blue Triton's attorneys wrote in a motion to dismiss the case. Blue Triton's representation of itself as a guardian of sustainable resources and a company who at its core cares about water is vague and hyperbolic. Yeah, have no fear that whales are now made of plastic and bottlenose dolphins filled with bottle caps. Our claims of sustainability aren't legally binding because we're full of shit. Their defense is essentially that they're full of shit. But wait, you can't. Hold on. Because you're trying to. You know what? Let's go back to the water theft because somehow that's less maddening. Something else about the rich stealing our water is that a lot of it is stolen virtually. What the hell does that mean? It means that fresh water is used inside the U.S. to grow plants that are then shipped around the world. So while the water is technically used here, it's used for things that don't stay in the U.S. For decades, a significant portion of alfalfa grown here and elsewhere in the western United States, as much as 17% in 2017, has been shipped around the world, mainly to China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia. And of course, we Americans also commit similar virtual water theft around the globe. We send a snazzy salesman into a small town in Africa or Latin America and go, "Hey there, how would you like a bunch of great jobs working at a factory building widgets? We'll bring that factory right here to your town, use up all your water building said widgets, and then ship the widgets to America where they fucking love widgets." Oh, they can't get enough of them. Love a widget. Sound good? But when it comes to stealing fresh water, perhaps the goats are the Resnicks, an adorable billionaire couple who has been essentially pilfering California's water for a generation. You know you're a villain when even Forbes covers the fact that you're jacking the water of millions of people during a mega drought. Wonderful, the closely held company owned by billionaires Stuart and Linda Resnick. You might know that company, by the way, for their pomegranate juice or their pistachios and almonds. It's just wonderful. Ugh, does everything in our dystopia have to have such inverted dystopian names? Who's stealing all the water as the crops die and the people starve? Wonderful! That's right, wonderful is killing us. And did I mention there's a new STD called razzmatazz? I'm getting tested for it right after I go and protest our city's paramilitary police department, now rebranded Splendiferous. Splendiferous shot my dog. He was innocent. It's really horrible. I don't know why I was smiling. Where was I? Oh yeah, the billionaire supervillains, the Resnicks. Their wonderful corp can buy up huge amounts of water whenever it needs more. Most of the Resnicks' water comes from long-term contracts and other water from land rights they have from the farms they own. Corporations like Wonderful can afford to pay vast sums for water, while most of us can't. So that means the corporations will get the water first, and they will jack up the price as well. But the open market is not the only place the Resnicks get their water. Most of it comes from the Kern Water Bank, the most valuable water resource in a region critical to America's fresh food supply. The water bank, which is a public-private partnership in which the Resnicks own a 57% stake, is a 32 square mile recharge water basin. Did you catch that? One of California's main water banks, critical to dealing with drought, is majority owned by two goddamn sociopaths. How did they end up owning California's water bank when it should belong to, the people? Well, it gets kind of complicated, but it has to do with the rules being drawn up by corrupt politicians and corporations. I don't have to say corrupt corporations because that would be redundant, and who has the time? One of the main politicians who has received millions from the Resnicks, wines and dines with them, and has protected their water rights for years is Senator Dianne Feinstein, who is retiring after her current term after a mere 735 years in office. When she first ran for office, she ran against one of the Hinges before it got involved with Stonehenge. It was doing freelance work back then. Wait, but isn't Feinstein a Democrat? I thought Democrats stood up for the people against the corporations, said no one ever who didn't drink the contents of mercury thermometers as a child. Yet again, we see that Democrats are as in bed with corporate master criminals as the Republicans. Anyway, the Resnicks in California are just one example of billionaires buying up all the fresh water. Another example would be in West Virginia, where the ruling elites successfully changed the law many years ago to make it so that when someone owns property, they generally only own the surface rights to the property. Then a corporation, often a mining corporation, can come along and say, "Hi, we bought the mineral rights of your land," meaning they bought whatever's under your property, which could be coal or could be water, or could be whatever. They can then begin extracting everything from under your feet while also completely polluting the area. It would be like someone walking up and going, "Hi, Steve, I know you think you own your body, but you actually only own the surface rights of the flesh bag that goes by Steve, and we recently bought the inside rights, the internal rights. So we're gonna take your blood, organs, and some other slimy bits. Hope you don't mind." I'm not a professor of analogy, but I'm pretty sure that one holds up. All told, water should be a human right. It should not be owned by anyone, much like the air we breathe or the trees that grow or the animals that run free should not be owned by individuals. There are things on this planet that are too important to put a dollar sign on, and we need to fight all of those greedy bastards who try to buy up these valuable communal resources. That's the most censored news for this week. We have a new episode every week. Please make sure to click subscribe so you find out about all of them. Also, the other way to reliably find out about these episodes is to text the word censored to 33777 if you're in the United States. It's completely free, and it signs you up for our weekly email list. I hope you'll do that. Text the word censored to 33777. Also, join us at patreon.com/behindtheheadlines. Keep fighting.